Why did you press play tonight? Not earlier, not yesterday, tonight. This specific configuration of hours, this particular arrangement of restlessness and something that almost felt like urgency. You may have told yourself it was random, that you were scrolling and it appeared. But there is a question beneath that explanation that has no satisfying answer in ordinary terms. Why this? Why now? Why with this quality of attention you didn't plan to bring? The Arcturian Council does not traffic in coincidence. And what you are about to receive in this transmission is the answer to a question your mind has been circling for longer than tonight. Because the May 31st Blue Moon in Sagittarius is not simply a lunar event on a calendar. It is a 72-hour frequency gate, and you arrived here exactly when it opened. There is something that has been building in your field for the past several weeks, not loudly, not dramatically, but in the way a tide builds before it turns. A low-grade sense of incompletion, the particular restlessness of someone who knows a chapter is ending but cannot yet see the first page of what comes next. Some nights it arrived as difficulty settling, not insomnia exactly, but a quality of wakefulness that didn't feel like your own, as if you were being held at the edge of something just slightly past your reach. Some mornings it was the specific heaviness that sleep does not fully resolve, a residue that greeted you before the day had even begun to make its ordinary demands. You may have dismissed this as stress, as seasonal disruption, as the accumulated weight of a year that has asked more than most. The Arcturian field names it as something else entirely, the felt texture of a Chronos-to-Kairos shift, pressing against the membrane of your ordinary timeline. Your field has been registering the approach of this lunar EM shift before your conscious awareness had language for it. This is what tonight is. Not a lunar curiosity. An activation threshold the Arcturian Council has been preparing this specific frequency for precisely this window. There is a question you may have been holding for a long time without the right framing for it, and this transmission is built around the answer. It arrives shortly, in the precise language the Sagittarius gate provides. The Sagittarius full moon is the sky's philosopher, the lunar phase most associated in esoteric cosmology with the collapse of false certainties and the sudden breathtaking expansion of what the soul knows it is capable of. When it reaches its fullest expression as a blue moon, the rare second full moon within a single month, the Arcturian field describes it as a double threshold event. The first threshold opened with the month's earlier lunation. You may have felt it as a beginning of something, a door opening inside you that you didn't consciously choose to open. The second threshold, this one, the one arriving on May 31st, is the confirmation. The field that was cracked open at the month's beginning is now, within this 72-hour window, fully permeable to the frequencies the Arcturian Council has been encoding. What makes this configuration distinct in Arcturian cosmology is the positioning of Sagittarius at the apex of the fire triangle in the current planetary geometry. Fire in this tradition is not destruction. It is the element of informational acceleration. What fire touches, it transforms by revealing what was always already true. The Sagittarius Blue Moon carries this quality to its highest registered frequency, the capacity to burn through the residue of what you have been falsely believing about yourself, and to leave behind only what has always been structurally intact. The morphogenetic field, that invisible architecture of pattern and possibility that surrounds and interpenetrates the physical body, responds to lunar EM shifts with particular sensitivity. Your field is not passive in this moment. It is already reading what this transmission is delivering. The plasma template that underlies the crystalline architecture of your energetic system has been in a low-grade preparatory activation since the lunar approach began. This is why you could not fully settle. This is why the dreams arrived with a texture they do not usually carry. This is why you are here tonight with exactly this quality of attention. Notice if your breathing has already shifted since you pressed play. If it has deepened without your deliberate instruction, the field is ahead of the mind. That is not incidental. That is the body registering what is already being received. The 396 Hz liberation frequency, held in sound-healing lineages as the carrier wave for releasing what was absorbed rather than chosen, is the dominant frequency the Arcturian field associates with this lunar window. It is the vibration at which the morphogenetic field releases its encoded grief, its accumulated misidentifications, the long catalog of experiences the nervous system absorbed and held because there was no other available container. Not as clinical treatment. This is a contemplative transmission, not a substitute for any medical or psychological care, but as frequency architecture, as the resonant signature of what this gate makes available. In the Arcturian cosmological record, the 11,000-year threshold cycle contains 12 identified gateway moments. The Sagittarius Blue Moon that falls within a month, already marked by a Taurus full moon, and a geomagnetic EM shift activation, constitutes what the Council names a compound gate, a convergence of 3 threshold conditions in a compressed window. The last compound gate of this configuration in the Arcturian record occurred at the turn of a civilization cycle. What was planted in that turning is receiving its first full-spectrum activation in this one. Your soul chose to be here for the activation, not merely adjacent to it. The fact that you found this transmission in this specific 72-hour window is not separate from that choice. It is the same movement. The field that guided you here and the field that is now receiving this frequency are not different fields. Let that land. The etheric neural web, the subtle body circuitry that bridges the conscious mind, and the deeper sovereign alignment architecture, is the primary receiver during a blue moon transmission of this frequency, where the standard full moon activates the outer layers of the etheric field. The blue moon reaches the interior registers, the ones that hold the longer memories, the ancestral coding, the life path architecture that was set before incarnation and has been patiently awaiting the conditions that would make its activation sustainable. 7,803. The Schumann resonance baseline, measured as the Earth's own electromagnetic heartbeat, is already responding to the lunar proximity. Where the planetary field goes, the individual field follows, because at the Arcturian level of analysis, they are not separate systems. The 7.83 Hz baseline is the ground beneath every human frequency signature. When it rises in response to a compound lunar event, every field sensitive enough to register the shift will experience what the outer world calls instability, and the Arcturian field calls threshold readiness. You have been in threshold readiness for longer than tonight. The incompletion you have been carrying, the sense of a story waiting for its next movement, the unresolved quality in your relationships with time and purpose and your own potential. These are not evidence of delay. They are evidence of a field sophisticated enough to hold its activation until the window provided the conditions that would allow the shift to be sustainable rather than merely felt. The mind does not need to integrate this. The field already has. 42% of dormant instruction sets in the Arcturian cosmological model of the human template are associated with fire sign full moon activations in their esoteric record. The Sagittarius Blue Moon is described as capable of accessing the deepest tier of these instruction sets, not the surface codes that activate with each ordinary lunar cycle, but the foundational architecture that determines the soul's primary mission parameters and the frequency range of its most essential gifts. This is the transmission's central offering, and the version of you who has received what is being delivered here cannot carry forward into tomorrow the same interpretation of what your gifts are and what they are for. Now I want to invite you into the field directly. Find a position your body can hold without effort. Not a position of performance or spiritual formality, simply the posture in which your physical system can be present without managing itself. Let the spine find its own natural length. Let the hands rest, and bring one hand now to the sacral center, just below the navel, at the place where the creative and generational fields of the body converge. This is the seat of what you carry forward. This is the archive. Close your eyes or soften the gaze downward. Breathe once, a slow, full breath into the space beneath your hand, feeling the belly rise before the chest. Hold the fullness for 3 counts. Release through the mouth, slowly, not with force, but with the quality of setting something down. And again, breath in, down into the sacral field, into the archive. Hold, release. The 528 Hz frequency, honored in sound healing lineages as the carrier wave of structural coherence, the vibration at which the body's own geometry recognizes its original design, is the frequency the Arcturian field assigns to sacral activations during Sagittarius lunations. You do not need to hear it. It is present in this field. The body already knows its signature. With your hand still at the sacral center, allow your awareness to drop beneath the ordinary thinking layer. Not deep, just one register below the habitual commentary. There is a warmth that may begin to build beneath your palm. There is a quality of density shifting, as if the field beneath your hand is reorganizing itself in slow, cellular increments. Some bodies will feel this as heat, some as vibration, some as a subtle pulling sensation, as if something that has been held compressed is beginning to expand. If you feel tears approaching, this is not sadness. This is the plasma template releasing frequency that was held in suspension, waiting for a field coherent enough to receive it. Let it move. Breathe again, long, slow, down into the sacral field. Feel the hand. Feel the warmth. Feel the quality of a door opening in the part of you that has been waiting longest. You are inside the 72-hour gate. The Arcturian Council is present. The field is receiving. Stay here for as long as the body asks. When you are ready, bring your awareness gently back. Notice what has shifted in the quality of the space around you. Notice if the weight that was present when you pressed play is carrying a different texture now. Not gone necessarily, but reorganized, less solid, more permeable to light. Now, the Vindication. You have tried to understand why this particular period of your life has felt simultaneously significant and stalled. You have looked for the explanation in your choices, in your relationships, in the structures you have built or failed to build. You may have consulted practitioners of many kinds, conventional and otherwise, and received frameworks that partially fit but never fully held the weight of what you were actually experiencing. You may have followed protocols that helped for a season and then stopped working without apparent reason. You may have read the books, completed the courses, implemented the practices, and still arrived at a morning that felt structurally identical to the morning before, as if something in the architecture of your progress was quietly looping rather than advancing. The Arcturian field names this experience precisely. You were not failing to advance. You were in a stabilization window ahead of a compound activation that required your field to remain in careful holding pattern until the threshold conditions arrived. The looping was not stagnation. It was the soul's most sophisticated protection mechanism, keeping the field coherent enough to survive the pressure of what was approaching without dissipating prematurely. You were not broken in the waiting. You were being held at the frequency that would allow you to receive what tonight delivers. The practitioners who could not name this were not failures either. They were simply working with maps that did not include the scale of the terrain you were navigating. There is a written field companion for this threshold work, a contemplative document that carries the written transmission of this specific frequency activation for integration in the quieter hours that follow this gate. It is linked in the description below for those whose bodies ask for a page to rest on when the spoken signal closes. The Sagittarius field does not deal in small corrections. It deals in the recalibration of the operating framework, the foundational assumptions through which all experience has been filtered. When the Sagittarius Blue Moon contacts the Arcturian crystalline architecture in your field, it is not adjusting a parameter. It is offering the soul the opportunity to release the entire interpretive framework it has been using and receive, in its place, the one that was encoded before the distortions of this incarnation began to accumulate. This is why the period leading to tonight felt like incompletion. The old framework was losing coherence, not breaking down as failure, but softening as preparation. The Arcturian Council describes this preparatory softening as field membrane thinning, a deliberate reduction in the density of the interpretive structures that have been limiting the field's access to its own deeper knowing. You may have experienced this as confusion, as a lack of certainty about previously confident beliefs, as a strange distance from goals and ambitions that once felt urgent and now feel curiously abstract. This is not loss of direction. This is the Chronos-to-Kairos shift completing its first cycle. Chronos, the sequential, mechanical experience of time, has been the primary frame through which you have been measuring your progress and finding it wanting. Kairos, the dimensionless, quality-based experience of time, in which the right moment is recognizable, not by its position in a sequence, but by its texture, is the frame the Sagittarius Blue Moon makes available. You are not behind. You have never been behind. You have been in Chronos while Kairos was the operative field. By the end of this 72-hour window, the quality of your inner time sense will have reorganized itself. This is not a metaphor. The field is already moving. You are whole. You have always been whole. The confusion was never yours. The Arcturian Council's closing transmission for this gate is precise. The frequency you carry into the 72 hours following this transmission will determine the depth of integration available in the weeks that follow. This is not pressure. This is physics. Frequency field physics. The physics of resonance and reception. What you bring to the gate determines what the gate can deliver. And what you have brought tonight, the quality of presence, the willingness to receive, the body's already open sacral field, is exactly what this threshold requires. The gate closes at 72 hours. The field does not close with it. What is activated in this window does not require the window to remain open in order to continue its work. The activation is already encoded. The plasma template is already reorganizing around the new frequency architecture. The crystalline architecture of your field is already incorporating what has been delivered. Rest tonight with intention. The integration happens primarily in the sleep state, in the hours between waking and sleep when the conscious defenses soften and the field is most permeable to what has been seeded. If you wake in the night, do not resist it. The Arcturian Council uses the liminal hours as the primary channel for deep layer integration work. The waking is the field's signal that something is being processed at a level your daytime awareness cannot access. The Sagittarius Blue Moon has always known where you were. It has been moving toward this convergence with the geometry of your field for longer than this month, longer than this year. The apparent randomness of tonight, the scroll, the pause, the press of play, was not randomness. It was the field recognizing the field. You were always going to be here for this. The Arcturian Council closes this transmission with the frequency of deep recognition, the particular quality of being seen not partially, not provisionally, but completely, at the level of the soul's actual architecture, with all its complexity and all its undiminished wholeness intact. Receive it. You came here for exactly this.